from 14 to 24, I was living, I was in a living hell.
Yeah.
I'm so heartbroken and distraught every day of my life I'm from 14 to 24, that when I got there, I felt like this relief, like, oh my God, I can let go.
Ah.
God, I was so exhausted from holding
Yeah.
up this persona of who I needed to be. You know, in school, I acted like the tough guy, the cool guy. Like, I put on this front, this show for people to try to protect myself. So by that moment, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm done, you know? And I surrendered, man. And I knew that I had to take responsibility for my whole life. And this situation was a part of it, you know?
Yes.
It was really like making an amends with myself for who I was and the way I chose to live. So no, in real time, in that experience, I started taking responsibility for my entire life. And I'm so grateful I did, because if I would have been resentful at everyone and blamed them, I would have just been fixated on things outside of my control. Like, why are they telling on me? Why doesn't anyone believe me? And I would have just been pouring my energy into things I couldn't change. So by taking responsibility, it gave me back the control. You know, it gave me back the power to change my life. And so, you know, for 6 to 8 months, this was my mindset. Like, this is my second chance. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Like, maybe this is, you know, my redemption. This is what I needed. I just started entertaining these thoughts on a daily basis rather than, oh my God, my life's over. Poor me. I'm going to prison forever. I just started believing that somehow, some way, this experience could help me. And then one day at court, my lawyer said, hey, they are willing to drop your charges to assault with a deadly weapon. If you plead guilty and you don't take it to trial, you'll get 7 years in prison instead of the potential life sentence. So by this time, the victim made a full recovery. It had been 6 to 8 months. And the changes I was going through and the type of like internal transformation that I was experiencing, I just felt in my heart that I could use this time in prison to my advantage, and I would get out and have, you know, decades in front of me. But if I fought it and I still continued to almost like for me, fighting it was almost going backwards. You know, it felt like to accept it and, you know, and trust and believe in this path that I was on now. So I did. And I took that plea deal with the mindset that I'm going to make this the best 7 years of my life, that I'm going to use this experience to transform everything about me, to improve every day. And I'm going to come home with so much momentum, and I'm going to be the best version of myself I could ever be. And that was the attitude that I had going into prison. And man, you know, those 5.5 years that I ended up doing became the most productive, focused, and honestly the best years of my life to that point.
Yes, dude. Oh, wow. Like, you were innocent of what you were being accused of, but you took a plea bargain deal of a lesser charge to still serve time, but not life, so that you could make this transition. I almost see this incident as a reset on Sean Michael Crane's life, because your life had been effed at that point since you were 14. And you needed something that would shake it up, because who knows, you might have killed yourself, you might have overdosed on drugs, or died in a drunk driving accident. Who knows what would have happened? But as you said earlier, everything happens for the reasons that maybe sometimes we don't see in the moment. And now this book here, Prison of Your Own, which I assume a lot of the concepts that you talked about in that book were born out of your time in that cell, 7 years. It's now in a lot of prisons. Did I read that right? That there's like 100,000 copies that have been put into prison so prisoners can read it?
Yeah, it just got approved, you know, this past year. So there's 200,000 copies available to inmates, and that's incredible, man. You know,
Yeah.
Once that deal went through and we were able to get that going for the guys in there, that's what this journey is all about, man. You know, when you start doing the right thing and you follow your heart and you be that person you want to be and you just don't hold back, doors open and things happen that you never could have dreamt of. And that's been the story of my life ever since. I mean, so I made 2 promises to myself in that cell before I got sentenced. Number one was that no matter what, every moment for the rest of my life, I was going to be my true self and my best self. And I was going to strive to give my best no matter what I did or where I was. If I was in prison for the rest of my life, or if I got out, I was going to be the best version of myself. So that was the first thing. It was just a deep internal commitment I made. And the second thing was I would never again use drugs or alcohol. And that was 9 years ago. I've been clean and sober ever since. So that mindset and that focus, things have just grown and blossomed from those two promises I made to myself. I was going through these changes inside the county jail. By the time I got to prison, I just kept building and building on this momentum. And it was this series of small incremental improvements in my life that started stacking up, and they compounded. In those 5.5 years, I was able to get college degrees in prison. I was able to join self-help groups like AA or Toastmasters and develop the ability to speak and these things that I get to do now. I was able to mentor other inmates because they saw my attitude, my daily conduct, my discipline, all these things that they wanted. And that helped me to uncover my purpose, which was to work with others. You know, before prison, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but just trusting in this intuition and following this path and giving my best every day, you know, doors were opening up and my awareness was expanding. Now I'm coming home from prison knowing exactly what I'm made to do, that I'm here to serve, that I'm here to inspire and help other people who are trapped in that mental prison, just like I was, to overcome their challenges and really live a life of purpose and fulfillment. So all these things were happening, and I can honestly, you know, say it was those choices I made in the county jail to fight for who I wanted to be and not just up like I had, that changed everything.
Man, what an inspiration you are. I want to congratulate you. You're still a young man by the standards of your host today, but you're amazing. And I'm glad that I got connected to you. Lillian, by the way, says some people have to hit that rock bottom and they manage to change their life around somehow. I don't think it was somehow with Sean, you guys. I think you had purpose in mind. You had a little voice. You had something in you. Maybe it was your uncle and his influence in your life. Who knows? But you had great something in you. It's wonderful that you can now testify to all those changes, Sean. Congratulations. So
yeah, can I comment on that real quick?
Yes.
You know, when we go through really extreme situations, hardships, adversity, a lot of times our reaction is to like feel bad about it. And we're taught that like when we go through bad things that we're supposed to be sad, or we see other people's behavior growing up, so we react that way. But what I found is the toughest times in our life also provide the greatest opportunities for growth and to develop. You know, and I've been through a lot of challenging times. Like I've had people die in my life. I've seen people die. I lost both my parents. I lost my mom when I was in jail. Like I've just been through a series of hardships, and they haven't stopped since I've been out of prison. But I've been able to leverage that adversity and use it to acquire growth and wisdom that helps me on in life. So for anyone watching this, I know it's been a tough 2 years for a lot of people. There's a lot of challenges with COVID and just stuff people are going through in their personal lives. But those are lessons if you know how to look at them. You know, find the good or the potential positive that's going to change your mindset or help you in future situations. So I just wanted to share that because I honestly get excited when I'm faced with adversity now because of what I've gone through in the past. And I know it's going to prompt me to grow or like adapt in some way that I otherwise wouldn't get the chance to.
Did you go keto and thought you had to give up wine? Well, let me introduce you to Dry Farm Wines. It is the world's first sugar-free alcohol that is lower than your typical wines, organic, made at local farms that do it the right way. Most of the wines that you buy are from 3 really big companies, loaded with additives and preservatives, so many dozens of those kinds of things. You don't want all that junk in your wine. So go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and they will ship you these wines. And just because you listen to this podcast, Dry Farm Wines is going to give you a bottle in your first order for just 1 cent. Go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and you will get your bottle of wine for just 1 singular penny. Go check them out. Dry Farm Wines, you guys. It's wine o'clock somewhere. Let's go get some wine. I look at adversity as life pushing back on you when you're trying to go forward. Well, what happens when you go to the gym and you push back on weight? You get stronger, right? So yes, in the moment, it breaks down the muscle fibers, but then in the recovery time afterwards, you get stronger. This is why I tell people, do hard things. Like, don't hold back on doing things that you want to do in your life. You're capable of literally anything you want to do. Yes, things will get hard, but that's what you want. Lean into that hardness. Currently, I'm on a challenge this year, Sean. I have an ice bath tank back there in my backyard. and I get in every single day 32-degree Fahrenheit water for 5 minutes. And I'm doing it all year long in 2022 on purpose because I want to do hard things so my body will then be ready when the real hard things come.
Absolutely. I love that. I saw you doing the ice baths, and I agree. I mean, that's challenging, but over time, you know, the mental toughness you develop and the resilience, you know, it carries over into other parts of life. And that's what people don't realize. Like, I go out every day and run or exercise, or I'm always looking to challenge myself, because when you develop yourself that way over time, guess who's showing up in the hard parts of life? Guess what version of yourself you're bringing into that relationship, or, you know, that change in your career, or whatever it is you're going through. It's not like the tough work you do in the gym stays in the gym. That carries over and goes with you. So I love that. I can't wait to get one of those polar plunges. I'm going to build, and I'm going to do what you're doing, because not just for the mindset, but, you know, the physical benefits and what it does to you internally, your body's hormones, your brain chemistry. It's so good for you, man.
So good. And to the point of pushing yourself to do hard things, instigating you doing more hard things. Guess what I'm currently doing as of the recording of this? I'm approaching 100 hours of salt and water only fasting. Now, would you know that me talking to you on camera, I don't look like I'm weak, do I?
No, man. Good for you. I think the most I did was 48 hours or 60, but 100. That's amazing.
Yeah, I wrote a book a million years ago about fasting called The Complete Guide to Fasting. And so I'm kind of a veteran of fasting. I've done many 21-day fasts. Of course, I'm a big boy, so I have the ability to do it probably better than someone lean and muscular like yourself. So yeah, dude, it's amazing when we push ourselves to do those things that we think are impossible up here, and then we do them. That does something to just kind of free you to literally think you're invincible. You can do anything.
Yeah. Can I share something about that?
Please.
So when I first got incarcerated, I had said no to everything in life. Like, any opportunity to grow or challenge myself, I got in the habit of saying no. You know, I just stopped trying things, and I kept myself stuck in life because of that. And the longer it went on, the harder it became to break out of this shell, this mental prison I created. So when I was locked up, I was writing letters and stuff back home, communicating with my family, and my spelling, I noticed my spelling was horrible. My penmanship was very bad. I didn't really try in high school at all. So it had been years of me doing these things. And I had this limiting belief that, oh, I'm just not smart. I'm not very intelligent.
Right.
I'm good in social situations, or I'm athletic, but I'm just not an intellectual person. And I kept asking my cellmate at the time, how do you spell this word? How do you spell that word? And one day he literally took a small pocket dictionary and threw it at me, and it hit me in the shoulder. He said, hey, look it up. Look it up for now. And he was mad. And I was, you know, like, okay, whatever. But in my head, I instead of being upset, I thought, okay, watch this. Like, this is a challenge. And this was me going out of my comfort zone. It was a small example, but I started looking up words in that dictionary as I wrote letters back home. And then I started using the dictionary when I'd read, and I'd look up words I didn't know the meaning of. I actually started keeping a list of those words. And then I started quizzing myself every week, memorizing the words and the definitions. Then I'd use them in my letters, and I'd put more effort into my penmanship. And in a very short period of time, my penmanship improved, you know, my grammar, my punctuation, everything. And people were actually commenting from my family and friends saying, hey, like, who's writing these letters? Is someone helping me notice the change? And this was huge for me, because I went out of my comfort zone and I attacked something that I previously would have, you know, made an excuse about, or I challenged a part of myself that I thought was concrete, and I proved that I could change, you know. And this gave me so much encouragement. When I got to prison, I found out they had college courses, and I thought, this is incredible. Like, I could take college courses in prison and make this time even more productive. And that was already the mentality I had. But in the past, I would have said, oh, you know, college isn't for me, or I would have found some reason not to. But that little act of looking up words and applying myself gave me the confidence and courage to take college courses. I ended up getting 4 associate's degrees in that time, and they gave me 6 months off my sentence. So this happens when you start getting out of your comfort zone consistently, and you put effort and you challenge yourself, you grow. Like, I grew. I evolved from a person who didn't believe he was intellectual or smart to someone who was trying, that someone proved to himself, no, you are smart. Then that gave me the confidence when I came home to write the book that has now been distributed to hundreds of thousands of people.